And joining me live now is the Australia, Israel and Jewish Affairs Council Executive Director, Dr. Colin Rubinstein. Doctor, thanks for joining us. Week after week, the Jewish community here in Australia has been holding Bring Them Home vigils. It must be extremely difficult to hear this news this morning.
It is very traumatic. Israel and the Jewish world extremely distressed, to put it mildly, with what's transpired over the last 102 days. Israeli vulnerability has not been experienced like this before. This is the worst massacre, really, that Israel's ever experienced. And people forget that a couple of 100,000 Israelis have had to be evacuated, both from the southern border and the northern border with Lebanon. So this is a huge shock. The brutal murder and massacre of over 1,200 Israelis. It was shocking, the way that was done, the murder and the rape and the sheer savagery. And of course, the situation of the hostages, over 250. We know nearly half of them have been released, but half of them are still held hostage. And of course, they're the insurance, there's the weapon that this barbaric, savage terrorist organisation, Hamas, and its leadership are using to maintain any leverage that they've got. And it represents a terrible dilemma for the Israeli government and the Israeli people, because on the one hand, there's an overwhelming sense of the need to rescue and save these hostages, absolutely. On the other hand, there's a complete determination that Hamas, being what it is, a brutal, savage terrorist organisation, has to be dismantled. So can't do what it wants to do, to repeat this savagery again and again, because people don't understand. This is what the Hamas charter is. It's part of the Muslim Brotherhood. Its charter says in black and white, its goal is to destroy Israel and kill Jews. And of course, regrettably, they were able to act on that charter and they want to do it again. So Hamas has to be dismantled so that it can't retain any military or political power going forward. And that's a dilemma Israel's government faces this very day.
Foreign Affairs Minister Penny Wong will not visit the location in southern Israel where the horrific October 7 attacks took place. What's your reaction to that?
Well, first, it's good that she's going. It's a little late in the piece, but it's good that she's going there. But I think while she's meeting with some of the released hostages and families of those being held, it's a pity she's not going south to fully understand the brutality and the immediacy of that brutality to not only southern Israel, but Israel proper. Because while she said it's an information trip, not so much a solidarity trip, going south and visiting one of the 22 kibbutzes that had brutally attacked that day would, I think, give her a better understanding as to the mindset in Israel and the Jewish world about the need to do what she and the government do accept. On the one hand, that Hamas should surrender, it should hand over hostages, and it should never be part of the equation again going forward. On the other hand, of course, the government is supporting an immediate ceasefire and a permanent ceasefire, which is a confusing stance to take and contradictory with the former quite legitimate goals. So I think it's quite disappointing. I mean, she is taking time to meet with Palestinians in the West Bank who are victims of settler violence. That's an issue, of course, that's reprehensible, and the Israeli government is onto it and doing more to contain that. And of course, it's widely condemned in the Jewish world as well. But there's no equivalence with that and what we see with Hamas. And of course, there is an explosion of terrorism in the West Bank where Hamas remains extremely popular. Over 1,300 significant incidents only in the last few months. And one has to add, of course, that the northern frontier, of course, is also extremely volatile. Right from the beginning of October 7, Hezbollah has been firing rockets at a low level. It's made that whole northern area unlivable. And while it's to be hoped it doesn't escalate into a major confrontation and war, Hezbollah is a serious organization with 150,000 missiles. If it gets to that stage of escalation, of course, we have a real problem. And people should understand the pivotal role that Iran plays in all of this, not only in terms of making Hamas's activities, barbaric activities, possible in the first place, but also, of course, being the godfather of Hezbollah very directly, not to speak of the Houthi problem down in the Red Sea, which, of course, has got the attention and finally some action from the international community.
Well, Dr. Rubinstein, really appreciate you coming on the program this morning. We're out of time. We'll have to leave it there, but thanks once again.